Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the ever merciful. Hasbi Allahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Sufficient for me is Allah, and what a fine caretaker of affairs. Alhamdulillah, all praise is due to Allah. Nasta'inuhu, we seek His assistance. Wa nastaghfiruhu, we ask Him to forgive us. Wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. We seek refuge with Allah from the evils of our own selves and from the consequences of our bad deeds. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu. Whomever Allah guides, there's no one who could mislead him. وَمَنْ يُضْلِلْ فَلَا هَادِيَ لَهُ. Whomever He misguides cannot be guided by anyone. وَأَشْهَدُ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ. I testify openly that no one deserves any worship other than Allah, who's alone in that right, sharing it with no one. وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. And I also testify that our leader Muhammad was His worshipful slave and messenger. May Allah raise his rank and that of his family, followers, and companions, and grant them all an abundance of peace and security. Amma ba'd. As for what follows, then this is our Tuesday night class. This is Tuesday night preceding the 19th day. Is that right? The 19th day of Safar in this year 1447. And we gather here at Al-Masjid Al-Awwal in the city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with our beloved brothers here and with those of our brothers and sisters online, wherever they may be. May Allah Ta'ala grant us all success. These nights are reserved for the study of Al-Aqidah Al-Tahawiyya, the Tahawiyya classic text in basic Islamic creed. And we have been studying point number 31 of that creed, which is found on page 46 of our workbooks. This is our 5th session now in study of this 31st point. Let's reread the point of the great Imam Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi, rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him, and then we'll pick up in the explanation of Ibn Abil Izz al-Hanafi, rahimahullah ta'ala, from where we've left off. قال الإمام رحمه الله وأصل القدر سر الله تعالى في خلقه. The great Imam Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi, may Allah have mercy on him, stated the basis of Qadar is the hidden wisdom of Allah, the Exalted, behind His creation. لم يطلع على ذلك ملك مقرب. No angel of any nearness to Allah knows anything about it. ولا نبي مرسل. Nor does any prophet sent to the people. والتعمق والنظر في ذلك ذريعة الخذلان وسلم الحرمان ودرجة الطغيان. Delving into that and investigating it is a road to humiliation and deprival and a level of rebellious transgression. فالحذر كل الحذر من ذلك نظرا وفكرا ووسوسة. So be as vigilant as you can regarding that. Be on guard. Be on guard. Whether in actual research, personal reflection, or entertaining internal whispers of doubt. فإن الله تعالى طوى علم القدر عن أنامه ونهاهم عن مرامه. As He, the Exalted One, has kept knowledge of Qadr hidden from His creation, and He has forbidden them from guessing about it and delving into it. كما قال تعالى في كتابه, as He, the Exalted One, has said in His book, لا يسأل عما يفعل وهم يسألون. He is not questioned about what He does. Allah is not questioned about what He does. Yet they, meaning the people, will be questioned. They are to be questioned about what they do. That's the 23rd verse of Surah Al-Anbiya. فَمَنْ سَأَلَ لِمَا فَعَلَ فَقَدْ رَدَّ حُكْمَ الْكِتَابِ. Anyone who asks, why did He do that? Meaning, why did Allah do such and such from what happened in the creation? Has indeed rejected the verdict of the book, the Qadr. وَمَنْ رَدَّ حُكْمَ الْكِتَابِ كَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. And whoever rejects the verdict of the book is among the disbelievers. That's the 31st point. We've been studying it for a while. The last session we had was a very enlightening session with 6 benefits of knowing about the evil that Allah has created. Affirming that Allah Ta'ala is the creator of evil and not denying that and not having any problem with that. That Allah created Iblis and Allah created Fir'aun and Allah created all of the evil shayateen, all of the jinn, all of the mufsideen, all of those who cause corruption in the land. Allah created them. But with that there comes a lot of confusion from people affected by philosophy, who wish to exonerate, who wish to exalt Allah by saying, no, you can't ascribe evil to Allah. You can't say Allah created evil, or that those evil matters are from Allah. That's bad manners or impermissible as it relates to your Lord and Creator, who's tayyib, who's good. La yaqbalu illa tayyiban. He only accepts what is good from His creation. How dare you describe Him with evil matters? We've mentioned that basic concept many times, and we've mentioned the quickest answer, the briefest answer is to say, okay, if Allah didn't create Iblis, then who did? You must now affirm a second creator. And you will be forced now, if you deny that Allah created Iblis, you will be forced now to affirm multiple creators, which makes you a pagan polytheist as it relates to the core issue of rububiyyah, of sovereignty of Allah. Is there a creator along with Allah? Ilahun ma'allah? Is there a deity worthy of worship along with Allah? Of course not. So this forces the hands of the Qadariyah and those who would deny that Allah has created evil to search for what is it then? What's the wisdom of Allah Ta'ala behind the creation of evil? If I have to affirm that Allah has created evil, then look at how this great Imam Ibn Abil Izz has given them 6 points of wisdom to make it easy for them to establish, to affirm, to acknowledge that Allah Azza wa Jal, who is good and loves goodness, did indeed create evil for a higher purpose, for better wisdoms than what the people can think of. So we have to review those 6 points just in a very summarized way, because Al-Imam Ibn Abil Izz builds on them here in the next part of his explanation. So if you have notes, look at your notes. If you have the Sharh al-Tahawiyya, then look there. What was the first of the 6 points? 6 fawaid with thamarat, benefits and fruits of knowing that Allah created evil. First one, who remembers? The creation of Iblis. What's the benefit? It leads to many affairs that Allah loves. The presence of evil leads to many affairs, many occasions where the only way to earn the love of Allah in that issue is confrontation with evil. Defeating evil, overpowering evil, refusing it, rejecting it, jihad against it, all of that in a general way. Then the 2nd through 6th points are actually branches off of that one main point. Then secondly, what? You can see the qudra, the greatness, the power, the capability of Allah. That He created what would be a struggle in this world between people of righteousness and people of evil. Of jinn who wish to worship Allah alone and jinn who wish to cause corruption. Of human beings who wish to cause corruption and human beings who wish to worship Allah alone. That struggle that is there is all created by Allah Azza wa Jal. So He created mutaqabilat, mutadadat, things which counter each other and fight against one another in this worldly life. None of that outside of His capabilities. Then thirdly, the effects of Allah's names. Not all of Allah's names, a specific group of Allah's names is intended here thirdly. Al-Asma' al-Qahriyya, those related to His dominance, His sovereignty, His power and control. Meaning that as Ibn Abul Iz said, you see that he is Al-Qahhar. From his names is Al-Qahhar, the ever-dominating one. If there was no evil to dominate, then there would be no Qahar, there would be no dominating. If he's Al-Muntaqim, the one who enacts revenge, retribution, and punishment that is deserving, from his names, Al-Muntaqim. He wouldn't have that attribute without there being a reason for Al-Intiqam, that someone has done evil and is punished for that evil. وَالْعَدْلِ وَالضَّارِ وَشَدِيدُ الْإِقَابِ وَسَرِيعُ الْحِسَابِ. Those names. One swift in reckoning, one severe in punishment, one who causes harm through punishment. Al-Adl, the one of justice. None of these could take place without a struggle between evil and good. Fourthly, other names of Allah as well, their meanings become apparent. These names related to what? Kindness, forgiveness, overlooking. So if there's no evil and there's no call to disobeying Allah, then there's no forgiveness, because everyone obeys Allah all of the time. Nothing to forgive, nothing to excuse, nothing to overlook. So no name, Al-Afu, Al-Ghaffar, Al-Ghafur, these names wouldn't have any manifestations. Because there's no forgiveness, because everyone always obeys Allah. There's no shaitan, there's no evil, there's no distraction. Everyone is basically an angel in perfect obedience to Allah. No forgiveness is needed. So then the names of Allah connected to forgiveness, mercy and overlooking, the meanings of those names become clear. If you understand that evil is present and evil was created by Allah Ta'ala. Then fifthly, as it relates to His wisdom, the meanings of Allah's names that are connected to wisdom. Al-Hakim, Al-Khabir. Al-Hakim, the wise one, the one who places everything in its proper place. Nothing is placed outside of its proper place. So if there weren't these reasons to be forgiven, these reasons for there to be reward for struggle and all of that, then Allah Ta'ala, there would be a problem in us understanding His name Al-Hakim, the all-wise. And then sixthly, servitude, the actual actions that we do which represent our part in the struggle of good versus evil, that we contribute to that struggle, sometimes physically, sometimes verbally, sometimes financially, in various ways. An example of physically, Hajj, all right, jihad. Jihad more related to the battle between good and evil. Verbally, al-amr wal-nahi, commanding good and forbidding evil. Financially, jihad as well. Yeah, physically and financially. Naam. And so you could even stretch zakat. Our brother says zakat. All right, zakat. Zakat is needed by the poor people, the stranded people, people stranded on their journey. If everything is good and there's no evil, no hardship, then no one's stranded. Then no one's in need. There's no poverty. There's no famine. There's no urgent need that anyone would have. So there's no zakat either. Get the idea? So actions that we do are all related to alleviating burdens, helping the oppressed, helping the poor, the destitute, those who need assistance, and so on. Situations which only arrive when evil is present. Whether that evil is opposition and attacks by the enemy, or poverty, famine, illness, hardships, things like that. All of those evils that Allah Ta'ala has decreed, they're all decreed for these wisdoms. So that reward is available, so that actions of various types are available to the worshippers of Allah Ta'ala to draw near to Allah Azza wa Jal. So each and every evil thing that you've seen in these 6 examples is only a means by which goodness can be accomplished, and a necessary means. You cannot remove these means and still get that good thing. You get the idea? You cannot get reward for jihad with no evil. It's mahal, it's impossible. It doesn't exist. There's no struggle between good and evil if there's no evil. So there's no jihad, there's no reward, and all of that. Every single thing, one by one, requires the presence of evil. Subhanallah. Look how much of our religion is missing. Pretty much all of it. Without the presence of evil. Without the creation of evil. And if evil is present, if evil is created, then there has to be a creator for that evil. And it all returns back to Allah being the creator of all things. So let's pick up now with the statement where we've left off. Ibn Abdul Izz rahimahullah ta'ala says, as you can see on the screen there, فَإِنْ قِيلَ فَهَلْ كَانَ يُمْكِنُ وُجُودُ تِلْكَ الْحِكَمِ بِدُونِ هَذِهِ الْأَسْبَابِ. What if someone were to say, but you could maybe have all of these results, all of these things of benefit, without the means that connect to those results. Philosophy here. Allah could decree those things without the means. Allah could decree jihad and the reward of jihad without evil being present. That's the question. If Allah wants to, He's capable over all things, right? Al-Jawab. فَهَذَا سُؤَالٌ فَاسِد. This is a corrupt question. It's based on impossibility. وَهُوَ فَارُضُ وُجُودِ الْمَلْزُومِ بِدُونِ لَازِمِهِ. It is to impose the existence of the result of a means without the means having taken place. كَفَرْضِ وُجُودِ الْإِبْنِ بِدُونِ الْأَبْ. Like to say there's a son, a child that was born without a father. Right? وَالْحَرَكَةِ بِدُونِ الْمُتَحَرِّكِ. Like there was a movement, but there was no being or entity that moved. But there's a harakah, there's a movement somewhere, but there's nothing that moved. These are impossibilities because if we say there's a movement, you say, well, what thing moved? Where did it go? In what way did it move? And so on. وَتَوْبَةِ بِدُونِ التَّائِبِ. And like there's tawbah that happened, repentance took place, but no one repented. And this kind of impossibility, this logical impossibility, is just philosophy in a question. What if? And philosophers have always been attempting to confuse the Muslims. They bring in Aristotle, Socrates, Plato. They bring in these philosophers into the discussions of Islamic theology in order to cause confusion to the Muslims. The philosophers end up saying, I don't even really know if I exist. The end result of philosophy is what? You cannot actually prove that you exist. And then something as plain and as simple as my existence, as I think and as I ask that question, I can't prove that because they have made requirements for proving something that are beyond what is logical and simple and self-evident. Subhanallah. So Al-Imam Ibn Abdul Izz is now going to present a few of these questions that are confusing for people, that lead some of the worshippers of Allah to deny the Qadar because of these questions. He's going to resolve them. This first question is just illogical in its origin, so it's rejected. It's a question that simply is not asked. If we asked, if Allah didn't create the creation at all, right, would He have mercy on the creation? Why are you asking if there would be mercy on a creation that He didn't create? Like, what's the point of this? Fardul mahal. To impose that something impossible is present, and so on. It's just philosophy, to the point where a person does not comprehend basic speech. He doesn't know what up is or down anymore. He doesn't know left from right. He doesn't know what's the difference between himself and a mountain or a river, because he's confused by this philosophy. فَإِنْ قِيلَ. Here comes a good question though. A question that he spends a nice amount of time reaching the answer to. فإن قيل فإذا كانت هذه الأسباب مرادة لما تفضي إليه من الحكم. So if someone were to ask, okay, if these means that happen, the presence of evil and the struggle of evil versus good and so on, if all of these things that have been referred to, the 6 things we just went over, if they're intended, if Allah wanted them to happen because of those points of wisdom that you mentioned, what they lead to, because of the implications and the results of those things present, فَهَلْ تَكُونُ مَرْضِيَّةً مَحْبُوبَةً مِنْ هَذَا الْوَجْهِ. So if that's the case, are they beloved? Are they something Allah is pleased with? Are they, actually he doesn't say, are they something Allah is pleased with? Are they pleasing and desired? Without mentioning who is pleased with them, but are they pleasing and desirable things from this angle, just from this one angle, that since they lead to all that good, then they should be good things themselves. أَمْ هِيَ مَسْخُوطَةٌ مِنْ جَمِيعِ الْوُجُوهِ. Or are they hated from all angles? Those things, Iblis, is he hated from all angles? the presence of Iblis, the creation of Iblis? Is it an issue that's maskhult, something hated and despised? Min jami'il wujuh, from every single angle. قيل هذا السؤال يرد على وجهين. It can be said in response to this question can be posed from two angles. أحدهما من جهة الرب تعالى. The first angle is as it relates to Allah the Most High. Meaning when you say مرضية, أي رضيها الله. When you say محبوبة, أي أحبها الله. It's pleasing and it's desired or beloved. That means to Allah. Is that the question? You have to sometimes dissect the question and make sure that you get to what the questioner is actually asking about. وهل يكون محبا or محبا لها من جهة إفضائها إلى محبوبه. And is it that it is beloved or that he loves those things because of them leading to what he loves? Meaning jihad and the mujahid and the martyrdom of a righteous worshipper, and poverty that leads to charity and rahmah being shown between his worshippers. He loves those things. So are those steps and means beloved because of what they lead to? وَإِنْ كَانَ يُبْغِضُهَا لِذَاتِهَا, even if he hates them for what they are themselves. وَالثَّانِي مِنْ جِهَةِ الْعَبْدِ. And the second angle you look at this question from is from the vantage point of the worshipper, the people. وَهُوَ أَنَّهُ هَلْ يَسُوغُ لَهُ الرِّضَى بِهَا مِنْ تِلْكَ الْجِهَةِ أَيْضًا. Then you ask, is it possible for the worshipper to be pleased with those things that happen, the creation of evil and so on, from this angle, because it leads to what Allah loves? فَهَذَا سُؤَالٌ لَهُ شَأْنٌ. This question has an angle, or this question has a place to be asked, and it has an importance to be addressed. He later refers to this question as له وجه, that it's wajih. It's a question that is good to ask. Naam. Lahu sha'nun. That means there's a place for this question. All right, now he spends a nice amount of discussion on the answer to this question. He's first dissected the question. Are these things that happen, the creation of Iblis, the presence of evil, the decreeing of tragedies and poverty, are these things to be hated absolutely? Or are they to be appreciated because of what they lead to? Firstly, with Allah. Secondly, with the worshippers of Allah. He dissects the question into two angles. And he's going to take it apart even further, deconstruct it. This discussion is one of the more difficult discussions found in Ibn Abil Izz's book. And he even acknowledges that. And he says, if you don't understand this discussion, then leave it for those who do. Right? And that's the realistic approach to more complicated issues, especially as you get into issues of Qadar, issues related to the decree of Allah Ta'ala, because Qadar is sirrullahi fi kawnihi, the secret wisdom of Allah Ta'ala and how He organizes His creation. And many of the Salaf did not like to speak about Qadar at all, especially from Ibn Abbas and the earliest part of the Ummah. But I want you to note that that's before Zuhur al-Qadariyah, before the Qadariyah came and put all the doubts out there. Then Ahl Sunnah speak in detail as responses to the points of confusion raised by the people of deviation. Otherwise, Ahl Sunnah did not like to talk about Qadr at all. Understand that when Ahl Sunnah talk about Qadr in detail, they're not violating their basic stance of not wanting to talk about Qadr. They're responding to the false arguments of the people of deviation, that if those arguments were left without responses, then people who want to worship Allah properly are left confused without a way out of their confusion. And that is from the generality of what is reported to be from the speech of Ali ibn Abi Talib, Al-ilmu nuqta katharaha al-jahilun. Knowledge is a simple thing. You affirm whatever Allah said, that's all. That's knowledge. But the people of bid'ah, the ignorant people, have made it to be a lot. Meaning the people of ignorance have come with points of confusion that require lengthy responses. And now, to talk about an issue of Qadar, which we would much rather say, Qadar is the decree of Allah. He does whatever He wills. He legislates whatever He wills. He decrees whatever event to happen in His creation, and then we stop there. I have no knowledge beyond that. You leave it. We would prefer that to be our discussion on Qadar and be safe. And some narrations indicate the importance of doing that. However, as mentioned, للضرورة, because of necessity, innovation has spread, deviation has taken place, confusion has been spread. Points of confusion and deviation need responses so that the people can have clarity in the affair of al-Qadar. فَأَعْلَمْ أَنَّ الشَّرَّ كُلَّهُ يَرْجِعُ إِلَى الْعَدَمِ. You should know that evil, all of the affairs of evil, return back to nothingness, absence of something. Everything that you can consider as evil, it is the absence of goodness from one angle or another. He gives examples. I mean, عدم الخير, the absence of goodness. So what is evil? It's the absence of goodness. What is bid'ah? Absence of sunnah. What is shirk? Absence of tawheed. What is kufr? Absence of iman. Get it? What is ma'siyah? The absence of ta'ah. So everything that's evil is the absence of its counterpart. And it's also the base rule. If you don't have the action of tawheed, then you're left to shirk. If you don't have an active participation with the sunnah, then you're left to bid'ah. What does a person do when he has no knowledge and he's left to his own opinions? He falls into all types of deviation. Get the idea? So the origin of something is al-adam. It's the absence of goodness. طيب. He says, وَأَسْبَابُ الْمُفْضِيَةُ وأسبابه المفضية إليه يعني عدم الخير وأسبابه المفضية إليه وهو من هذه الجهة شر. And so the things that lead to that evil, they are from this angle. Things that lead to this absence, they are evil. Those things which cause this evil are from this angle evil. وأما من جهة وجوده المحض فلا شر فيه. As it relates to its essential presence, then there's no evil in it. There's no evil, there's no absolute evil there. مثاله, here's an example so it becomes clear. أن النفوس الشريرة وجودها خير من حيث هي موجودة. The presence of people with evil souls, the souls of evil, their presence alone, just their existence, is not something evil. The presence of those things as a basis is good and better than the absence of those things. وَإِنَّمَا حَصَلَ لَهَا الشَّرُّ بِقَطْعِ مَادَّةِ الْخَيْرِ عَنْهَا. The only thing that made them evil and made our stance on these things to be evil is the absence of, or the breaking off of, or the cutting off of the good that would reach those souls. The absence of good reaching the souls, that's what made those souls evil. فإنها خلقت في الأصل متحركة. Those souls have been created to move about, to take action. فإن أعينت بالعلم وإلهام الخير تحركت به. So if they've been aided and assisted, and I want you to pay attention to the word أعينت. There's إعانة. Now, there's three important matters that the Imam here introduces. إيجاد, إعداد, and إمداد. Ijad means to bring about something, to create it. I'dad means to prepare it for something, to give it knowledge or direction. And then imdad is to cause it to go forth in that way, with what it's been prepared for. Those three things are all part of creation. Things aren't just created alone, they're created and they're prepared for something, and then they're directed and sent towards something. All of that is part of the creation and the existence of something. طيب. So dividing the issue into those three things is important here. فَإِنْ أُعِينَتْ بِالْعِلْمِ وَإِلْهَامِ الْخَيْرِ تَحَرَّكَتْ بِهِ. If it's assisted and aided with knowledge and direction towards good, then it moves towards goodness. وَإِنْ تُرِكَتْ تحركت بطبعها إلى خلافه. But if it's left, if that soul is left without knowledge or direction towards good, then what? It's going to move because it's been created to move. It's going to take action. Where's the action going? Towards what? Towards the opposite of that, towards the opposite of goodness. You can only move towards goodness if you know what it is and if you've been guided by Allah to direct yourself towards it. وحركتها من حيث هي حركة خير. Its movement, just from the angle of it having movement alone, the presence of movement is خير, it's good. وإنما تكون شرا بالإضافة. It only becomes an evil movement when it's associated with an evil action. لا من حيث هي حركة. Not from the actual movement itself, that the soul is inclined to do something. That's not evil by itself. Doing something is not necessarily evil. وَالشَّرُّ كُلُّهُ ظُلْمٌ. And all of the evil that can be done is all oppression, placing things in other than their places. وَهُوَ وَضْعُ الشَّيْءِ فِي غَيْرِ مَحَلِّهِ. Dhulm is to place something in other than its appropriate place. فَلَوْ وُضِعَ فِي مَوْضِعِهِ لَمْ يَكُنْ شَرًّا. And if something is placed in its appropriate place, then it would not be evil. فَعُلِمَ أَنَّ جِهَةَ الشَّرِّ فِيهِ نِسْبِيَّةٌ إِضَافِيَّةٌ. Then it's known by this, that to call that thing evil or to associate it with evil is a relative additional description, meaning the soul is not evil in and of itself, it's evil once it goes towards an evil action. That's our adhan. This is ta'sil. In order to understand the answer to the question posed, we have to build these foundations. Remember, the question is lingering there. It hasn't been answered. What's the question? The shar, the evil that's there, is it pure evil, or do we appreciate it because of what it leads to? Right? And that's from our angle and from the vantage point or from the angle of Allah. Does Allah consider those things to be pure evil? Or does He love them and is He pleased with them from the angle of what they are there for and what they cause and the benefits that have been mentioned? So this right now, this discussion is a preparation, a foundation for which now the answer will come. He says, وَلِهَذَا كانت العقوبات الموضوعة في محلها خيرا في نفسها. And along these lines, punishments that have been placed, legislated in their appropriate places, they are khayr, they're good, في نفسها, in and of themselves. وإن كانت شرا بالنسبة إلى المحل الذي حلت or الذي حلت به. Even if they are evil as it relates to the specific point where they are applied, exactly where they are applied. An example real quick, think of the removal of the hand of the thief. Right? Is it a deterrent for the society? Is it helpful for the society? Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. Theft in the lands of Islam where that rule is applied is exemplary, low in a great way. And theft in lands that don't apply that rule, you find it to be off the charts. Subhanallah. Part of daily life. Theft of vehicles, theft of homes, theft of people, theft of money, theft of identities, all types of theft. But in a place where this law is applied, people are afraid. They have a deterrent that keeps them from stealing. Think about that. When the person loses his hand, is there any shar there? The loss of a hand? It's very serious. For that person, that's a very bad thing. That there's pain involved, there's suffering, there's blood, there's a loss of a limb, there's, some evil there. But think of it, that is good in an overall way, but evil in a specific way to that individual. لما أحدثت فيه من الألم الذي كانت الطبيعة قابلة لضده من اللذة مستعدة له. That's because of the pain that is produced through such a punishment, that one's natural state, he would prefer to enjoy good, delightful situations, and that's what he's prepared for. فصار ذلك الألم شرا بالنسبة إليها. So for that specific individual, that punishment being applied to him is a negative thing. It's an evil thing. For him specifically, in his specific situation. وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ بِالنِّسْبَةِ إِلَى الْفَاعِلِ. But it is good. There's goodness in it as it relates to the one who does it. Al-fa'il. Now al-fa'il here can be two types. Al-shari', the one who legislated that to be done. That's Allah. And the one who implements what Allah has legislated. Al-hakim al-shar'i, the Islamic judge who implements it. It's good for him because he's worshipping Allah by implementing what Allah has revealed to be worshipped, to be legislated or to be applied. حَيْثُ وَضَعَهُ فِي مَوْضِعِهِ. Its goodness as it relates to the one who legislated it because he put it in its right place. And the judge as well has applied the ruling in its appropriate place. فَإِنَّهُ سُبْحَانَهُ لَمْ يَخْلُقْ شَرًّا مَحْضًا. For he, the Exalted One, did not create any evil that is pure. We're getting to the answer now. There's no such thing as a pure evil. Absolutely evil in and of itself. مِنْ جَمِيعِ الْوُجُوهِ وَالْاِعْتِبَارَاتِ. From every angle, evil, and from all angles of consideration. No. فَإِنَّ حِكْمَتَهُ تَأْبَى ذَلِكَ. Because his wisdom refuses such a concept. فَلَا يُمْكِنُ فِي جَنَابِ الْحَقِّ. Tell me if I gotta move this along. أيوة. فلا يمكن في جناب الحق تعالى أن يريد شيئا يكون فسادا من كل وجه لا مصلحة في خلقه بوجه ما. It's not possible as it relates to considering this, the action of Allah, al-haq, the one of truth, the Most High, that He would want something to take place that is just corruption in every way of corruption. Absolute corruption and mayhem. لا مصلحة في خلقه بوجه ما. No benefit at all from any angle whatsoever. هذا من أبين المحال. This is from the most manifest of impossibilities. فإنه سبحانه الخير كله بيديه والشر ليس إليه. Because He, the Exalted One, all the goodness is in His hands, and evil is not ascribed to Him. Be careful. Evil is not ascribed to Him. We're not agreeing here with the Qadariyah. But we have to say, how is the evil not ascribed to Him? بَلْ كُلُّ مَا إِلَيْهِ فَخَيْرٌ. Everything that is ascribed to Him is to be good. وَالشَّرُّ إِنَّمَا حَصَلَ لِعَدَمِ هَذِهِ الْإِضَافَةِ وَالنِّسْبَةِ إِلَيْهِ. Evil is now a description of things that are not associated with Him or attributed to Him as His action, and so on. فَلَوْ كَانَ إِلَيْهِ لَمْ يَكُنْ شَرًّا. If it were His action, His attribute, then it would not be evil. فَتَأَمَّلْهُ. So think about it carefully. فَانْقِطَاعُ نِسْبَتِهِ إِلَيْهِ هُوَ الَّذِي صَيَّرَهُ شَرًّا. The fact that it's disassociated with Allah, that's what has made it evil. That Allah Ta'ala has not granted the goodness, therefore it's evil. Allah has not granted guidance, therefore that is evil. Allah has not granted piety to the person, therefore it's evil. Because Allah Ta'ala has chosen not to grant it its goodness, that's what has made it evil. فَإِنْ قِيلَ. And if it were to be said, لَمْ تَنْقَطِعْ نِسْبَتُهُ إِلَيْهِ خَلْقًا وَمَشِيئَةً. But you still can't break off the connection between that evil and Him as it relates to creating it and willing it. Those evil things are still His creation and still willed by Him. قِيلَ. It's said in response to that point, هل من هذه الجهة عفوا هو من هذه الجهة ليس بشر. From this angle it's not to be considered evil. فإن وجوده هو المنسوب إليه. It is the presence of that thing, the creation of it, its ijad, its existence. That's what is ascribed to Allah. وهو من هذه الجهة ليس بشر. And from that angle it's not an evil thing. The presence before the movement is not an evil thing. وَالشَّرُّ الَّذِي فِيهِ مِنْ عَدَمِ إِمْدَادِهِ بِالْخَيْرِ وَأَسْبَابِهِ. There's that word imdad that I told you is coming up, very important. The evil that thing is described with is because of Allah not providing it with the khair, with goodness, and the means towards goodness. وَالْعَدَمُ لَيْسَ بِشَيْءٍ حَتَّى يُنْسَبَ إِلَى مَنْ بِيَدِهِ الْخَيْرِ. And so the absence of something, the absence of goodness, is not a thing so as to be ascribed to Allah, the one in whose hand is all good. So then that answers the question. Mostly, there's more of the answer left, which we'll have to read in our next gathering. That answers the question that we appreciate the means that are created to evil as necessary to achieve good. And Allah Ta'ala as well has decreed them, and they are good from the angle of their existence and what they lead to. And they are evil from the angle of the absence of the khair and guidance, the goodness and guidance that would be found in them. I'm going to skip ahead just to how he ends the discussion, which I'll return to, but I want to remind you about what I mentioned earlier in the class, because I know this topic is difficult, it's a bit philosophical, it is a response to a lot of philosophy. So he says, فَإِنِ اعْتَاصَ عَلَيْكَ هَذَا وَلَمْ تَفْهَمْهُ حَقَّ الْفَهْمِ. If some of this has come to you, meaning you don't have the ability to understand this in its proper way of understanding, فَرَاجِعْ قَوْلَ الْقَائِلِ, then think about, review, and consider the statement of the poet, إِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ شَيْئًا فَدَعْهُ. If you're not able to do something, then leave it off. وَجَاوِزْهُ إِلَى مَا تَسْتَطِيعُ, and pass it up to go to what you're able to understand. In that is a very important point and a beautiful scholarly point of advice. When a discussion is philosophical in response to philosophers, it can get difficult. He acknowledges that there, and that's something we'll read next time, insha'Allah ta'ala, in its actual context. But it shows that this issue is known to have difficulty in understanding, and there's an expectation that some people would not understand this issue. And he says, be easy on yourself. Avoid takalluf. Avoid overburdening yourself. You don't need to understand every philosophical point and every response to it. If it's difficult for you to understand this one, then skip it and go to the next point. Quite simply, skip it and go to the next point. Be easy on yourself. Don't overburden yourself. You leave off issues which are difficult on your heart to understand and skip to the next point. And don't demand that you understand every point in every issue, but say that one seems a bit difficult. Perhaps I will be able to understand more as we go. And we've seen that in this book. We've seen already in issues in Ibn Abil Izz's discussions, issues which are difficult to understand. We're trying our best to read through all of it and try to get the understanding of it. But sometimes it may be the case that we have to say, let's allow ourselves to go beyond this without understanding it, without perfecting our understanding of the points he presented. But if Allah Ta'ala has blessed us to understand it, then we thank Him for that. And we'll continue on this topic with more up until that point and beyond, insha'Allah Ta'ala. But essentially we have reached the end of his discussion of the answer to the second question posed, with some foundations built. And the summary of that is that Allah Ta'ala has created evil, and Allah Ta'ala has deprived that evil of goodness, and Him depriving that evil of goodness is what has led to that evil being considered evil. Not that the creation of that thing was evil in and of itself, in an absolute way. Naam? And so Allah Ta'ala sees the goodness in that and knows the goodness of that, and His worshippers as well see the goodness in the creation of those evil things because of what they lead to of good, because of insight, knowledge, and awareness of Allah's wisdom. Without considering those matters, you just see suffering and you say, that's bad, that's evil. Why did Allah create that? As the silly disbelievers do all of the time. They see tragedy and they say, what kind of God would allow this to happen? They see a baby born with deformities, right? And they say, if there's a God, why does this happen in the creation? They see any number of tragedies and things which are difficult to look at, and they say, if there's a creator, why did He allow this? Because they have no insight into the wisdom of the Creator, that He creates tragedy, that He creates deprival, He creates these kinds of things as a trial and a test for there to be a struggle. How would a person appreciate his good health if he has the same good health as every single human being, and there's no illness and no sickness and no reason to even consider gratitude? Everybody has good health, and the standard is everyone lives in perfect health and no one has any illness, then how would the healthy people be grateful? And where would the reward for the sick people and their patience and their struggle, where would that be? All of these great things that are part of the creation that are summarized by the scholars at times with two basic matters. You're either in a situation of loss, being deprived of something, and so you implement the worship of patience. Or you're enjoying prosperity. You have wealth and good health. Then what are you being tried with? The need for gratitude. You're either this way or that way. In both cases, it's a test. You wouldn't be able to be patient if there wasn't a trial, if there wasn't a loss, some difficult matter. And you wouldn't be able to be grateful either if you think of it that way. You wouldn't be able to be grateful because you have nothing to compare it to. Everybody has everything. Why be grateful? There's nothing to compare your situation to. Aren't you grateful when you consider your good health and you see someone in a wheelchair or you see someone who's blind? Aren't you increased in your gratitude when you think of the favor of Allah that you enjoy that not everyone has? So if everybody has what you have, there's no reminder around you to be grateful. Subhanallah. Also, one point that Ibn Abul Izz did not mention that helps us understand this too. He mentioned the criminal being punished and how it's evil related to him. But I'll add here, just to show how much good is in these things which we consider to be evil. The cutting of the hand of the thief. For sure, he doesn't enjoy his hand being cut off. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like living with a missing hand after that either, right? But if he's a Muslim who submits to the religion of Islam, does he see any good in it? Absolutely. A believer who's repentive for his theft and he's now going through the punishment, he understands this is good for the society. He surrenders and submits. This is what Allah has decreed. I submit myself. Remember the Sahaba who would submit themselves for capital punishment after adultery because they knew that was good for them. That was a purification for them. Whoever faces any of these uqubat, any of these hudud, then it's a kafara. It's an expiation of sin. If he considers that, this punishment I'm going through is an expiation of my sin. I'm guaranteed forgiveness and the sin is expiated. On top of that, I'm part of a deterrent for the society. I'm a lesson for everyone to be obedient to Allah and respect the property of the worshippers of Allah. That's in that one example. So when he submits and surrenders, because the people who are put under these punishments under Islamic law, there are two types. People who have to be forced, and they're screaming and shouting their innocence, and this is dhulm, this is oppression, all the way until the punishment is applied. And then there are those who surrender and say, this is good, inshallah, khayr, there's kafara, there's expiation, and they surrender, and they don't have a problem with it. The believer, in compliance and surrender, right? So people are of two types. Even when you're going through something like that, you're still being tested. And there can be a great amount of good for you in that. That you are truly repentive and you submit and surrender to the punishment when it's against you. You say, so be it. I've done what requires that punishment, so let it take place. And I deserve it. I know that Allah is Hakim. He affirms Allah's attributes. He affirms the goodness of the ruling. He affirms the righteousness of the society, how it will be aided by his example of submission and surrender to that ruling and so on. So there's actually many, many angles of goodness in it for the criminal himself. You get the idea? So it's not just evil for him and good for everybody else. It can be overwhelmingly good for him as an individual in his specific situation, and as well, of course, good for the whole society as well. And that's an angle that Ibn Abul Izz didn't actually cover. But I think that helps to understand that the angles of goodness, whenever you zoom in and consider how much goodness is found in something that's apparently evil from the decree of Allah, every time you investigate more, every time you go further and deeper into the issue, you find more and more good. You peel layers back of goodness more and more. More consideration means you'll find more angles of goodness in what you initially considered to be negative and a loss and a tragedy. SubhanAllah, a man going blind. He says, Laytani, oh no, now I'm blind. I lost my eyesight. I loved seeing things. I can't see my wife anymore. I can't see my children anymore. I can't look at the Mus'haf anymore. Negative, 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 right? At first, without thinking, without any foresight, it's all negative. What happens when he slows down and he says, wait a minute, perhaps there's khayr here, there's goodness here. What does he see? The one who loses his two habibas, his two beloved things, his two eyes. He's patient with that. The reward is Jannah. He goes to paradise. So he says, I'm here to be tested to see if I will go to paradise or the hellfire. Maybe this is what will get me to paradise. Everything I've done, maybe it was flawed and it won't benefit me in the hereafter. Maybe this is my ticket to paradise. That's enough right there. Then think about it. What else will happen? People will see him. Everywhere he goes, people see him and they say, Alhamdulillah, I have my eyes. He's creating praises of Allah Ta'ala wherever he goes. What else? The more you think about it, the more you'll find good. So he won't have any more sins of the eyes. Right? كتبت على ابن آدم حظه or كتب على ابن آدم حظه من الزنا وزنا العينين النظر. The sons of Adam have their share of zina, adultery, and fornication written on them, written for them, prescribed upon them. And the zina, the fornication of the eyes, is the looking. He has no more of that. He's done with that. Maybe he was tried with that. And now, not a single thing to be looked at in his record after that. That's a unique angle. I wasn't thinking of it. That's what I mean. Every time you think more about the issue, deeper, with more insight, you'll see more and more khayr. So the initial, I can't see my children, I can't see my wife. Right? The evil angles he saw when he first encountered the hardship. You know, it's going to be so hard to get around. I can't drive a car anymore. I can't this, I can't that, right? Those initial, basic, surface level harms and negative things are then followed up by all types of goodness found in contemplation. Subhanallah. How will he be grateful for his hearing after that? Do you think his gratitude for his other senses might be intensified? Alhamdulillah, he'll say, I have my hearing. And in fact, what does Allah do to the hearing of a person who loses his eyesight? He makes it stronger. His hearing becomes stronger. His other senses, his other abilities become stronger. He notices that. It's noticeable. Subhanallah. He becomes grateful. All of that. He becomes remorseful for the sins he committed with his eyes. And that remorse, maybe it was not going to come to him until he lost his eyes. And that leads him to real tawbah for things he looked at. And he was going to just neglect those things. Now we've got massive mountains of repentance in his scale. And he's saying, look at the favor of Allah upon me. Right? So for sure, every harm, everything that is viewed initially as evil, every undesirable, makruh, disliked thing, all you have to do is say, Allah Ta'ala is Hakim. Allah Ta'ala does not decree something that's pure evil and corruption. Just absolute mayhem and loss of goodness, just absolute deprival. No. Everything that's a challenge, that's a difficulty, that's loss, that's a death of a person or illness or these things, every single thing is surrounded by all types of goodness. And all you have to do to bring out more and more of that is contemplate carefully about those matters. And you will see layers and layers of goodness. Walhamdulillah. Nah, and Allah Ta'ala knows best. We've gone over our time. My apologies. Wa salli Allahumma wa sallim wa barik ala nabiyyina Muhammadin ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.